bueno, sí. Tengo que cambiar unos en acá.
Ya no escucho nada.
¿Tú no escuchas?
No, yo no escucho nada.
Ok. Ahí yo voy a escuchar.
No.
No. No. Este no está conectado.
Está aquí. Pero yo no escucho.
Ah, porque no desconecté el tuyo. Después cuando desconectaste ya no escuchabas nada. Ok, ahí va.
Sí, no lo ves.
Bueno, yo tampoco escucho.
Sí, bueno.
Ahí está. Ok.
No.
Ustedes dos sí. Porque ustedes sí escuchan.
Yes.
Ok.
Yo no.
Okay.
I'll just do it like this, whatever.
¿Escuchan? Ok. Si te conecto aquí, si escuchas ahora tú.
No.
Ok, entonces es solo.
Tal vez.
Y conecto aquí, no me escuchas, ¿verdad?
Casi, o sea, te escucho como que iba a empezar y luego ya no.
Si lo dejo ahí, escuchas.
Ahí sí.
Tengo falso.
Sí, eso está raro. Ahí sí es.
Ahí, ya, sí.
Ok.
Pues ahí.
¿Y si dónde funciona? ¿Nada?
Pues, una poquita sí se
Yeah.
no,
Ustedes dos sí se escuchan.
ya sé que igual.
Ok. Para que no se llegue a estirar. Ok. ¿Vas a escuchar ahorita?
Sí.
Ok.
Gracias.
Gracias.
¿Cómo se pronuncia tu segundo apellido?
Las por ahí.
Las 40. Ok, gracias.
Es muy largo ese baño, pero bueno.
Te digo la.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Welcome to the first series of Leadership in Motion, and we're so excited that you're joining us this afternoon from whatever city that you're listening into us, from whatever campus, whether you're in the corporate sector, whether you're in the public sector. We're excited to have this segment where we share stories about leadership. Remember, if you're not moving people, you're not leading people. And so today, I'm so excited for our guest, and we're calling this segment Leadership in Motion, because leadership is about movement. And our guest today just reflects that movement, and I'm excited that he's here with us today. But I've got Abigail here, and Abigail's gonna introduce our guest. I'm gonna start our show. Abigail.
Thank you. Well, first of all, hi. And well, I'm going to introduce our guest. He's Juan Pablo Murra Lascurain. He's Director for Higher Education at Tecnológico de Monterrey. He is also a professor of leadership, family business, and corporate governance. He's passionate about education, leadership, and transformation. Juan Pablo has held several roles at the institution since joining in 2011, such as Vice President for Development and External Affairs, Dean of the Business School, and Vice President for Planning and Transformation. He served as Secretary of the Board of Trustees of Tecnológico de Monterrey from 2012 to 2020. Juan Pablo worked at McKinsey & Company for over a decade. He advised a global portfolio of public, private, and non-profit clients in Mexico, the United States, Russia, Colombia, and Brazil, leading projects in the financial, energy, consumer goods, retail, education, and philanthropy sectors. Murra serves as president of the FinTech Board of Directors and as a board member of the Civic Council of Institutions of Nuevo León, Consejo Cívico de Instituciones de Nuevo León in Spanish, and the Eugenio Garza-Lagüera Entrepreneurship Institute at Tecnológico de Monterrey. Juan Pablo holds a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering and systems from Tecnológico de Monterrey and holds an MBA degree from NYU Stern School of Business. He's married to Maria Enriquez and is father to Jimena, Juan Emilio, and Maria Andrea. Give it up for Juan Pablo.
Thank you. Gracias. Thank you, Kasonde. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for being here.
An honor.
Abigail, what an impressive bio.
I know, it was really long and impressive.
Long and impressive.
Wow. Thank you.
I'm really nice.
No,
Abigail, go for it.
Okay, well, Juan Pablo, we have the first question of the day, and is how do you define leadership?
thank you. It's a great question, and I think it's a relevant question because I do think we have discussed this many times. Leadership does matter, and the way that we understand leadership matters more. I found once a definition. It's not mine, but I like it, and I try to keep it at hand. And it says that leadership first is a social process, which I think it's very relevant. It's not a position, it's not a role, but a process and social. Because leadership without interaction, without movement, is not leadership.
Yeah.
So it cannot happen in a vacuum. So leadership is a social process that inspires and moves to collective actions with others that have a shared objective.
Yeah.
So I think they're very relevant pieces there. It's the social process again about movement and about inspiration, but also about a shared goal. So that for me, that's what leadership is, and that it has many characteristics and many other concepts around it. But I think it's a good definition to start with.
Actually, one thing I learned in EGS, it was that there's not a universal definition of leadership. And that's something that I like because everyone gives their own definition. And I really like the definition you gave. So I feel like it's really good. And everyone complements their own definition. And I think that's really good. That's a nice perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, having said that it's a social process, I want you to take us to a place where you felt like in that moment, I knocked it out the ballpark. This was a 3-point shot. My leadership on that moment, I was shining.
Thank you. And it's a hard question. I think I'm gonna share with you a story, or that it's not a specific moment in time, but I think one that has been probably one of the most relevant challenges in my professional career, and I think one that has had a lot of impact, and it's probably relevant for many of you guys. And it's when we this was back in 2012. I joined tech. We were in the process of defining what we want from tech. What is the expectation? So we spoke to the board of trustees, faculty, students, and we came up with a new vision. The vision to educate leaders with an entrepreneurial spirit, a humanistic outlook, and a global vision. And that's sounds very good. But then you say, what does it mean to be this type of leader? And what should be the educational model that you need to educate leaders in the 21st century? And we asked ourselves these questions, and we went through a process to identify what we thought was needed. We visited 50 different universities, and we defined that what today we call Tech 21 at that time was not Tech 21. Tech 21 we just knew that we needed a new model, and we defined that model needed to be competence-based, challenge-based, flexible, memorable educational experience, many different elements, which is not important in this conversation, but I think the challenge is how do you transform an institution that is already very successful to work with, at the time, 60,000 students, 10,000 faculty members, 26 campuses across Mexico, to convince them that what you have been doing up to today, although it has been good, it was not enough going forward. So I think the leadership required to transform an institution like tech was remarkable. And it's not my personal leadership, but I think the collective leadership of the team, of the faculty, of the equipo directivo, the directive team at tech. Really, it's an example, a very relevant example of how to move and transform an institution. We have seen, since we launched Tech 21, probably 120 different universities have visited us and asked us about the characteristics of the model. And they're not very surprised about the characteristics of the model because you read the literature and everybody's talking about these things. But their surprise is that we actually launch and are actually doing this, and that we're doing this not in a single program, in a single campus, or in a single semester, but that we actually are doing it for all programs, in all campuses, in all semesters. It required, as any transformation, different levels of careful planning, thinking, and implementation. First of all, the narrative, why change? it was not a burning platform. It was already probably the leading university in Mexico. But then you need to build a case of why the effort and the risk that we were taking was worthwhile. So the narrative on the reason why was very relevant. Second, so to convince people to change, but then the actual planning of it. So what is going to happen, right? How do you structure the transformation unit? How do you try pilot different things? How do you bring together 300 different faculty members to discuss and redesign 40 different programs? How do you deploy the technology that is going to be needed? How do you define the new roles that are going to be doing? How do you train people in new roles? So that the hard part is also, I think, very relevant. People tend to forget about that. But I think great leaders are not only great at communications and great at inspiring people, but they actually can get things done.
Yeah.
And that involves technical knowledge and being ready and doing the heavy lifting and doing work, which I think is very, very relevant. And it also involved changing incentives, changing evaluation processes, changing narratives, changing everything from the institution, moving from a campus-based structure to having national processes, having schools, training over 200 people in process design and process management. So I think, and it has taken 11 years now, and we're still not done. But I think the boldness of the leaders that were there at the time, Salvador in particular, but the board and David and everybody, was very relevant. And putting all this together has been probably one of the most challenging processes and activities that I have been part of, and I'm proud of that, of having part of the leadership that got that together.
Wow. Change is painful and pain is changeable. And 11 years, it's a lot. And in fact, I want to ask you a question off of that. And I know I have the next question, but I want to just throw in one more question. Are you seeing what you saw?
Oh, that's a good one.
I think I'm a different person and it's a different tech. So I think there are elements that I keep seeing the way that I saw them at the time. But many we did not expect, and we have learned a lot along the way. So I'm not sure that the answer is yes. I think it's no.
No, but actually, I want to push it further. What I meant is the vision that you all had 11 years ago in 2012.
Is it a reality today?
Are you seeing it today?
I think for the better part it is. I think there are elements that could be better than we thought, and some that are much better than we thought will be here. For me, for example, the part that I think we didn't quite grasp the size of the challenge was the part of the faculty transformation. Redesigning a model, changing classrooms, setting up technology platforms, defining new teaching methodologies, designing new programs. All that is hard, but it can be done. Transforming the mindset of 11,000 faculty members, it's a challenge. But it also what makes it sustainable and relevant. It's because it's no other way to transform a university if you don't transform the faculty.
Thank you, sir.
Well, the next question is the opposite of that. Will you discuss a recent non-exemplary leadership movement you had?
Good. Also, good question. And I think everything. Thinking about an example for this is it's something in which we haven't achieved the results that we wanted. That's one possibility. Or the other one is we got the results, but we didn't do it the right way, which happens a lot. Those tends to be neglected, but you sometimes do achieve the results, but didn't act in an exemplary way. But I'm gonna talk about one that it's still a challenge that we haven't figured out. We have made progress, but we're still, I think, stuck. Similar to saying 11 years ago, we need to transform the university to educate leaders with these characteristics. We also said we want to make tech a research university. Research has been done at Tech since its foundation, but not at the scale, at the depth, and at the quality that we all think should be done. We Also, we did a benchmark and we identified what makes a unique and relevant research university. And of course, talent plays a role, faculty plays a role, equipment plays a role. But there's a challenge that we haven't figured out yet, and it's funding. Regretfully, but it's true, and we tend to forget about that part. And if you see every single university across the planet that does research at scale, they have found a way to get funds, mostly from government, but not only from government, and from companies to do research. And in our case, we have allocated a lot of internal funds to do research. We have created 3 interdisciplinary research institutes. We have 32 research groups. We have over 200 faculty members that are with a reduced teaching load to be able to do research. We have improved significantly the research outcomes, the number of papers that we publish, the citations of these papers, the quality of the journals that we are publishing, and I think to a lesser degree, but also the impact of this knowledge that we have has increased. But we haven't been able to find ways to sustainably get more funds. And I think we haven't thought well about it. We haven't dedicated enough time and energy to it. We all say that it's important, but if I'm honest and I say, what percentage of my time am I dedicating for fundraising, for research, is very, very, very little. And we haven't been able to do the other things that we did for the Tech 21 model, to change the responsibilities, to change the job descriptions, to change the incentives, to build the capabilities. So I think research, although we have improved a lot, we're not where we should be, and we don't have still the capabilities and the know-how and the processes to scale the research efforts. I think that's a challenge that we still have.
Thank you so much.
And to those of us that are listening, in terms of raising funds, I think it's a responsibility of every person, every stakeholder. So even the students, you're part of that process. So please don't think of this as a tech leadership work. This is, everybody is telling the story of tech, and people only give resources where they believe the story. And so students, we need you to be ambassadors as we tell our tech story and the world hears this great story. I'm reminded of when Juan Pablo, he sent me to Barcelona last year. And that's the first time I represented tech at an international event. I was very impressed at how people recognize this, you know, and that just gave me so much joy and pride. And I think my chest puffed up, you know, yeah, thank you, Juan Pablo. I even had an accent. And so let's keep telling our story so that people can plant seeds into this great institution that we also love. Talking about this great institution, yes. Our founder, Don Eugenio Galazar, he had 17 principles that I live by. And I won't read them all, but I'm going to ask you to identify, I think I said, is it 4? Or actually I said 1 that stands out to me, and tell us why.
It's an amazing list to begin with, and it's an amazing leader. And the more I find out about him and learn about what he did and the period that he was living it and the experiences that he went through, the more amazed that I am. I just got an email from CETIS University, a university in the northwest of Mexico, saying that they just inaugurated a wall with the pictures of people that are relevant for the history of the university, and Don Eugenio is among them. And I was surprised that he not only impacted tech, but many other educational institutions across Mexico. I think the one that I chose, and I think is very relevant, and it's even more relevant today, is ser tolerante, be tolerant. Which I think it's surprising that he even wrote that at the time. Imagine, he was the most powerful business leader in Mexico. He could probably do whatever he want, and still he thought about this. And I think he realized that diversity was relevant, and that we needed to learn from each other, and that that our differences is what makes us better and stronger. And I think sometimes tolerance has a negative connotation, but I think if you read the description, it's a very positive one. And I do think that in the times that we are living right now, with violence going on, with political division all over the world, you see it in the US, in Mexico, in Argentina, everywhere, we need to be reminded of our common humanity, that each one of us is unique and therefore is different than the other person, and that we thrive on those differences. But we need to respect and embrace those differences, and we'll not call it diversity and inclusion, you call it be tolerant, but I think it's something that is very relevant and that we need to be reminded of that.
Man, that sounded like Nelson Mandela right there. Oh, great point. Ubuntu.
I was thinking about that.
Ubuntu. Yes, no, great points. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the next question is that what do you hope your legacy at Tech will be?
I mean, the reason that I work at Tech is because I think it's the most relevant platform in Mexico, at least, probably in Latin America, to transform and improve the lives of people, and to do it at scale. But I do think, if you ask what specifically, I think the message that leadership matters, and that extraordinary leadership, it matters even more, and it's unique and it can be developed. And that's the reason why we created a project like Don Eugenio as a global leadership program, because we kept saying, imagine the impact, not imagine, identify the impact that Don Eugenio has had. Imagine if there could have been 2 or 3 or 4 Don Eugenios. For me, that's the reason why I work here, because I do think that we can create the conditions, the platforms, and the tools to educate tens or hundreds or thousands, hopefully, of mini Don Eugenios that can transform Mexico and the world. I mean, we have so many challenges, and the common denominator to solve those challenges is leadership. So creating a culture where leadership matters, and leadership means all these things that we have been talking about: motion and inspiring others, about making impact, about getting things done. That's why so embracing this culture of the relevance of leadership is for me my potential legacy.
Yeah, because I think that goes hand by hand with the phrase that everyone says, that when you die, the things you build or the things you have, they're not gonna be left behind. What you're gonna leave behind is the impact you made on people and the people you inspired. So I feel like that's one of the many reasons leadership matters, and why, for example, in the program or even in the classes, we see that leadership matters, and yeah, that's what will last.
The best impact that leaders have is the development of other leaders,
yeah.
And the ripple effect and the exponential effect of that is amazing.
Yeah.
So I love that this idea of leaving an impact and leadership matters. But what I even like what you said even more, that I think I'll start using is leadership matters, but even better, exemplary leadership. And that's the challenge I think we all have, is to push each other to reach this space, because it's easy to be in autopilot. And so, having said that, I just wanted to ask you a question. I know this wasn't part of my point, and the question will be coming in. What juices you up? In the morning when you got up today, what's your juice?
That's good. I mean, of course, my strength, part of it comes from my family and my kids, and the love that I have with my friends. I think that's a source of energy and motivation, but also something that truly gets me excited. It's the human struggle to achieve something relevant. For example, every time, I don't know if there are some leaders of tomorrow hearing this, but every time that I see the videos of them and their families, and I think what they went through throughout their life to be able to overcome so many difficulties and earn the possibility of studying at Tech, that's amazing. That's just inspiring. And you can see it with faculty members, with a soccer team, but that passion to make something that shouldn't happen normally, but it happens because of human energy and purpose. That gets me excited.
It reminds me of Pablo. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Estado Mexico campus, SEM, and a young man who was in EGS, who since graduated and is working at Bimbo. And this young man's story is just amazing. It's a story of human struggle. And I asked him a question, Abigail. I said, how are you doing? And his answer wasn't how he was doing. He said, how we are doing.
Wow.
And he was talking about his mother, his father, and his sister. He said, we all are doing better. He didn't speak in I, he spoke in we. And I thought that's a testimony
That's
to what's
amazing.
happening in tech.
Yeah.
Abigail, you have a question to ask.
Okay, yeah. I actually had the question you asked written down.
You overtook it.
What's one recent decision that's like really important that you wish you didn't make?
Oof, there are too many. No, I think it's hard to pinpoint a specific one again. I think something that I tend to regret after the fact is tech is a large and complex organization. We have 6 schools, 26 campuses, 8 by presidencies. We have the board of trustees. So it's very easy to sometimes narrow down on what you think is your responsibility, but forget that that what you do impacts the entire system. And so I think sometimes I got myself saying, I said something that was good for me, even good for my team, but was not necessarily good for tech. So trying to balance that, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A learning process.
A learning process.
I appreciate your candidness of that. You know, it takes humility, and that's one of the aspects that we talk about in EGS. Radical humility. When you're looking at leaders, what's the first thing that stands out to you when you say, you know what, this person that I just met has the it factor of a leader? What's something that stands out to you?
I think service. I do believe that leaders very rapidly show whether they truly have the interest of the other person and the well-being of the other person at heart, and that they're like thinking how they can be of service to the person that they have in front, or to the cause, or to the institution. You feel it, you sense it.
And there's a question coming in from a live audience. Somebody says, sir, please tell us, how do you know when you're being a good leader?
I think, first of all, I think you need to feel comfortable with your values. I don't want to say proud, but at least comfortable that what you're doing is something that you will defend no matter what, because it is aligned with your values and with your views. I think also, I want to emphasize again, when you're moving the needle, when you're having impact, right? When you see results, it's not always only about results. Sometimes it's better not to achieve results if it means that you have to go against your values. But at the end of the day, you do need to move the line further, right? So when you see that again that you have an impact, and I think that's important. And the other one that is relevant is watch what people do when they're around you. Do they wanna work with you? Do they ask for your advice? Are they happy when you call them? I think that the reaction to and it doesn't mean that you need to be easygoing and funny and joking all the time. But you can tell from others very easily when you see people that attract talent and attract good things, and others that underserve. And if you have the capability of seeing yourself from the balcony, and not only in the dance floor, you can identify how people react to what you're doing.
That's actually an article right there,
Yeah.
right? Sir, we have 1 minute, and
Yes.
the last question is about balance.
Mhm.
I'd love for you to close us off with that and any other comments that you have. You know, it's a student question that says, how do you manage balanced work-life tasks?
Yes. If you ask my wife, she would say not very well. And it is a challenge. There's a very good book by Peter Drucker called Managing Oneself. So it's an HBR article, actually, more than a book, but it was published as a small book. It doesn't talk necessarily about personal professional balance, but it tells about the importance of managing your time, managing your energy, managing your strengths and weaknesses. And it starts by identifying what are you get to know yourself truly, what are these capacities that you have. You need there are trade-offs, and I keep saying that if my agenda could be filled 4 times every day, and you need to start deciding very consciously what type of where do you allocate your time, where do you allocate your energy. Then you need to develop good habits. There's a very good book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. He was here last year. I strongly recommend it. I'm not a good example of it, but I do think that forming habits it's the best way, because if you rely only on goodwill, it will not be enough. And that's how I try, and I mean I think that book says that you will deviate. The challenges go back as quickly as possible. Sleep well, do exercise, drink water, don't drink too much alcohol, exercise. The recipe is easy, right? The challenge is that it's a challenge of implementation.
Thank you so much, sir. Abigail, one quick word. What did you hear today?
I was really inspired because when you get in your routine, you can forget sometimes of being inspired, actually inspire others. I mean, sure, you do it naturally, but when you like refresh your mind with the ideas of leadership, you taking new advice, for example, what you said that I was like writing down everything, it makes you be better, and it helps you like get into a new mood when you go in your day-to-day activities. So thank you for that.
To that point, the more responsibilities that you have in an institution takes a while for you to catch up. I should focus less on the task at hand. I don't do that very well. I'm very task-oriented sometimes. But my main responsibility is the development of the leaders that are part of my team. So the more that I spend time and energy on that, the better I will serve the institution.
Wow, thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Please look out on our social media platforms for the next Leaders in Motion. If you're not moving people, you are not leading people. Thank you so much, Juan Pablo. It's been good to have you.
Kasonde, thank you. Thank you very much. That's good. Saludos a todos.
Yay.
Good.